Yo, what's up, everybody? It's me, Pete Dante, back with my boys from Project Nerd.
Do you mean like sort of on...
I guess I love you.
Tragedy struck.
I see you haven't lost your touch.
Or
I can do the intro, or this is the intro. I don't know. Let's just.
it's happening right now.
It's okay. Hey, nerds! It's Iggy and Q back for another exciting episode of Nerdcast. And when we say back, it's been, I think, what has it been? 4 or 5 weeks.
37 years.
37.
Last
Everything
episode.
2020 and 2021 feels like
Before
37
podcasts
years.
even existed, somehow we were doing podcasts.
Awesome. Well, we are here with two incredible guests. So we have Nora Quinn and John Booch. Carnabuci, and these folks are, well, the art director and art manager at Hero Forge. So what does that mean, Nora and Booch? Why don't you tell us?
Well, for those familiar with Hero Forge, you know that we make custom tabletop miniatures. We are really big on customization. There you go. There's a perfect example. As art director, all things art. So that's looking at a wide view of what's coming up with our art content and what we want to hit and what we can do that's fantastic for our users.
Sweet.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
No, absolutely. You go ahead. You're our guest.
No. Just to add, as art manager, I work with Nora to essentially get the art made for the website. So that involves working with a really talented team of internal and external to coordinate all the meshes and all the pieces that are available on the site made and ready for users to play with and work with to their heart's content. It's a very fun process to fill out that library of pieces.
Now, I have to ask, for those out there who are just kind of learning about Hero Forge and what you guys do, can you explain kind of what it is that Hero Forge is as a company? Like, what do you guys do? What do people go? I know what you do, and I'm very excited to dive into it. But for those who don't know, what do you guys do?
Right. So folks may have tabletop games or other avenues where they want a character that represents themselves in physical form, and probably small physical form. And now in digital too, where they say, I want to make this character, and all the miniatures that are out there are already predetermined in terms of, what does this, let's say, dwarf look like? What does this ranger look like? They're making a lot of predetermined choices that, while a lot of the art can be really stellar and stuff, there's a big need for folks to have representation and awesome choices sort of given to them, put in their hands so that they can create a character that really aligns with what they want to make. And so that could mean a character that looks like themselves, has hair like they have, is their height. We have color plastic technology as well, so you can get this printed in 3D color plastic printing and get that shipped right to your door. So that can look just how you want it to. And putting the power of that in our users' hands has really led to some incredible results. So far beyond what your own imagination can give you. Their needs for these characters and what they look like. What does their demon hunter look like? What does their warrior look like? It's just been massive for them to create their custom character.
That is so stellar. I will say, so kind of taking your website for a test drive, for those so people kind of understand what this modification ability looks like. For anybody who's played Fallout 4, this is like essentially the unlimited ability to customize your character. It feels like, and there may be limitations, but I'll tell you, taking a spin on the website, it doesn't feel like it. Like, it feels like I can change and customize anything I want. I can make this character anything I want it to be. Now, us just meeting for the first time, there's no way you guys could have possibly known this, but my wife and my 2 teenage daughters, we have an ongoing D&D campaign that we run during summers. And we have all created individual characters for ourselves. And because I was so sadly unaware that this existed, we took it a step further because we couldn't find characters or miniatures that represented ourselves, and we would just dress up in costume when we play because we really want that. But now I will be absolutely ordering I will be ordering a miniature version of myself and also dressing up while I play D&D from now on. It's such a cool thing. Are you both, and I don't know if this is putting you on the spot or not, but do either one of you or both of you play tabletop games as well as that? Or is this just like I do art, but I don't play what we make? Is that okay to ask?
Nope.
So I came from way less of a tabletop background, way more like video game kind of MMO stuff. So kind of adjacent to, but not tabletop gaming. Thankfully, when I joined the company, I played my first few rounds with some, fellow coworkers. I had no idea it could be so fun, so funny. I remember being in tears laughing. I mean, that was our style of play. And the website helped me create my character just by the nature of you could put sort of anything anywhere, even though this was some years ago, so it was a little more limited. But that inspired the creativity of, oh, wouldn't it be fun if this character held this and that, and that's what made this character, and I'm going to build a story off of that. So that was my history, at least.
I love it.
Yeah.
Booch, are you reconnected now?
Yeah, how's the sound? Better?
Oh,
Oh,
you
much
sound
better.
Beautiful.
Great. Yeah, that happens once in a while. We'll hope it doesn't happen again. But yeah, no. I come at it from an art background, but I have a really large nerd background. If you could see the rest of my office, you would know how much I'm into this stuff. But I actually have played D&D for a long time. Recently, I'm in a long-running campaign that's several years running, and it's actually one of the reasons I got to knowledge of Hero Forge in the first place. Essentially the exact reason that the site is there is what brought me to it, which was coming back into D&D, as a lot of people are nowadays, this huge resurgence, and just wanting a custom character that just fit exactly what I was playing. And I actually got my first Hero Forge mini as a customer before looking for work with the company, and play with that mini for a year or so, 2 years. And just elevated the experience at the table to have something that was so easy to see as my character. And I love a lot of the pre-made minis that are out there. There's some beautiful artwork that is involved in those. But yeah, just get the feeling of having your exact one is kind of what really sealed the deal for me on the value of it. And then I just happened to look, a year or so later, and the company was looking for new hires. And so I got to join Hero Forge as a fan and actually even a Kickstarter backer for their 2.0 color printing minis, which I actually have spent the last year plus working on all the stretch goals and things for that. And it's been a really interesting nerdy journey getting to this point with the company. And yeah, I still use our minis in the current campaign, and even our digital version downloadable stuff. Due to the fact that a lot of D&D nowadays happens kind of across screens like this, this kind of situation. But yeah, no, totally.
I want to point out, I don't know have y'all all seen The Green Knight at this point? I don't know.
Actually have not yet, no.
Okay.
It looks amazing.
Okay. There's a fox in it that is CGI, that is the most unrealistic thing. Like the practical effects even in that movie are amazing. And that's all I can think of when I get this figure. I'm of course blocking it with my
Oh, you see with the fox there.
Yeah, the little fox it's so tiny and has such detail. You can see the texture in its hair. You can, the white tip tail, the black tipped ears and nose. The small size of brush to just be able to get that nose is insane. And when I first opened that, that's all I could think of was how amazing the fox looked in that movie and how amazing it looks there. And then the other thing is we talked about before we got on the air, this guy right here. So after I opened the box, they were sitting on my table and my daughter was like, "Is he in a wheelchair?" And I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "That's so awesome." And which was cool as a kid, for her to even recognize that. But I think I think the word I've heard multiple times is representation of you building the character that you are. And I think that's significant because we think immediately of like color of skin, genders, things like that, and don't think always of things like this when we're talking representation in games and movies and stuff. So I think that's just really cool. I also like I believe it's a bear head. I really like that.
Yeah.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that's awesome. I did not realize that, and that is so killer. What an awesome, like you really are taking that customization kind of to that next level, so people can really truly feel represented,
Yeah.
however they envision themselves or their character. And I think that that's really 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 excellent. I am
I
so on board with that.
we knew it was important to us by default. Like we all come from a place inside where I think that's important to us by nature, which is great about our team. Really smart, wonderful team. And then to see the response when we put out things like this, there's a lot of things that we can put out that increase representation. It it's this great feeling of folks saying, finally, here's this thing that is important for my character or for myself. And the feelings you get from that are, I mean, it can make you float for a long time. So
For sure.
it's very meaningful work in that way too.
That's awesome. I mean, I can imagine because, especially in media recently across the board, a big conversation that's been had is that kind of representation and that inclusion. And I think it's important for, even in these fictional characters that people are depicting, right? It's important for people to be able to see themselves reflected back in their character, to see people that look like them or look like, you know what I mean? And so I think it's really awesome that you guys have included and put that into kind of the structure of how everything's put together. I have to ask, just from a layman's perspective, what does that process look like? Like, let's say I go to your website right now and I customize a character. What does that process look like from me sending that finalized design through to actually receiving it in the mail?
I would almost want to say that's the easier side of the process at first glance. The pre-production side is so much heavier. I know Booch can speak to that a bit too. Almost once the user designs their character, then we're like, okay, we can send this order off. We can get it printed, really great color printers or non-color, and get that shipped. But Booch, if you want to talk to the front end of that, it's a whole other deal.
And it's a good example of how the art process kind of goes through here. And something like that, we start with concept almost always. That's the case. We'll reach out to an external artist that we have on board who will take essentially inspiration and requests that we have and concept those out in 2D, nice, clean sketches. From there, we take that and we send that out to sculptors who actually create the art in ZBrush. We have a very extensive, so due to the complexities of the system, we have a very extensive system that needs to be kind of taken into account as the design process goes through. So even for just something like that hair, we have to think about how it'll play with all the other parts that interact with the head, helms and crowns and things of that nature. Even just different shaped heads, like you have that bear you pointed out. That bear could have a bowl cut. So how does that fit on a bear's head? So we have alien heads that have to work with that same piece. So there's a lot of considerations that go into it. So we take that all into account. We work with the sculptors, and we have decently extensive internal system to kind of work out how things will work together. And once the sculpt is complete, we then pass it along for final art and retopology and essentially making it for the website a working version of that art that can be viewed by people who are visiting the site. And our internal artists take it from there and they hook up all the systems. We work with a lot of proprietary things here, a lot of software that is available to the public, like ZBrush and Maya is a big part of our process. But a lot of it's proprietary, the systems in which we use to import those meshes onto the site and get everything live. But yeah, that's all taken care of internally. And there's a lot of considerations. The hair is a good example. Something like a glove even is a good example of like a very complex part that needs to work well with all the different shirts and sleeves. And when we design a part, it's never just that one part that is designed. It's how that part interacts with our entire system of parts that may interact with it, which is, it's a bit of a juggle, to say
I
the
have
least.
to ask, Have either of you seen the series Mythic Quest on Apple?
I've
Plus
seen a few
yet?
episodes. Yeah, I really
Yes.
liked it. I need to watch more.
Yes, absolutely.
I
Yeah.
highly recommend checking it out. But just hearing you discuss the level of, you're like, all right, so we take this bowl cut, and then we have to figure out how that's going to interact with a bear's head versus an alien's head. There's a kind of running series of stories where they're dealing with a shovel that is being introduced to the game, and hearing these complexities, it's so funny because it really is like, it's not as simple as just being like, we should have a shovel available now. And it's like, yeah, but like, what does that shovel do? And what does that shovel look like when it's interacting with the different type of characters? How do people hold it? Do they wield the shovel like this, or do they lean on the shovel in the ground? And so
I mean,
that's
is it
just-
a two-handed shovel? Is it a one-handed shovel?
exactly.
How do you attach a shovel to the
Exactly.
back? What if you want to
Side,
attach 5 shovels?
Listen,
Yeah.
And
all I know
Six-armed
is that
character.
that shovel, if I hit someone in the head with it, their head needs to explode. It is definitely how the shovel works. That's a really crazy, like, I didn't even think about how, but of course that totally makes sense. How you would have to account for all of those different
Yeah.
variations. It's not as simple as like, we want a bowl cut haircut. It's like, done.
Right,
Instead,
and-
it's like,
sorry,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just excited by this. And then you
Yeah.
support it forevermore. So, you know, who are we to make the call that a bear should not have a bowl cut? You need to allow for that and let
it's
folks make that
gorgeous.
choice. It's
yeah,
gorgeous.
I'm not
The
gonna
bear with the bowl cut is gorgeous, by the way. I had to do it. I had to do it.
And
That's
so we want to make those decisions in a way that users will always have that option present to them. We don't want to take back an option. So how do you make sure that you're building systems that can scale out that sort of addition, and that we're thinking wisely about what we include? We don't want to have a species come out that has limited functionality compared to another one. And so
Sure.
that's a lot of our discussions too, and getting the feel for that whole system of what feels right for users. What are we making sure that we're setting up right? Should we look back into the system and make it a little broader so that we're better positioned for the future to give users more of what they want?
Sure.
So that's always part of our conversations.
Do you guys ever get to just say, all right, let's say you went and watched Ghostbusters that is coming out this week, and you were like, all right, listen, I really think there needs to be a proton pack option available. Is there anything that you have individually been like, I really want to see this, no matter how small or how big? It could be a ring. You're like, I want to make this ring. This ring has actually been passed down in my family, and I would like to model this ring after it. Is there anything that you guys individually have kind of put in and seen come to fruition, or am I just giving you ideas for the future?
What do you think, Booch?
I mean, there's certainly examples of that from the team at large. Personally, myself, not like specific items. We definitely, of course, have the little leeway to involve the reference that we want the artists to work on, of course, so we can work here and there with how we get things onto the site and what they look like. I think a good example that kind of butts up against the topic there is when I early on in my time here. We got a large kind of set of Dragonborn heads and dragon type characters that were worked on and released, and a lot of dragon related things. And that happened to be the character that I was am still playing at the time in my campaign. So it was a bit of a guilty pleasure to kind of get to essentially work on bits and pieces that I was going to add to my character.
Sure.
And update my former version of my character with a little bit more. It got even more what I was imagining in my mind with the extra capabilities that we were working on. It was cool to get as one of my earlier projects, get to work on those pieces, and now they're part of my printed mini, and that's it was fun to plus my guy up a little bit.
I can answer a bit for mine too.
Yeah.
For me, early on, back when we were a smaller crew, we knew that we sort of wanted to do high heels someday, and we needed a lot of tech in place in order to do that. And finally, the day had come where we had enough things in place that building this out would be supported, and we were doing it the right way. And I remember having a discussion with Tegan, our CEO, and he was much more hands-on with the art as we were starting then. So we had a chat about heel heights. And we sort of landed on, okay, one heel height is fine. And I knew in the back of my mind, I'm like, this isn't fine for me. I think actually I need to sit Tegan down to say, I need 2 distinct high heel heights. This is important for me. You know, the super steep heel versus a sort of more moderate angled heel. And it was this thing, I'm like, maybe this only matters to me, but this meant plenty to me. And he was so amenable and was like, yeah, of course, let's do a couple of those instead. But I think it resulted in all of these great high heels coming out, which for my characters I wanted, and so to be able to give that functionality too, I was really excited about. But definitely it was a personal request in the back of my mind. Once we get things squared away, I would love to lean into this.
That's cool. I love that so much. That is exactly why I can never work at Hero Forge, because I am that dude who I would be like, I have this really sweet pair of glasses that I just bought, and I think that should be a character option from now on. We'll call them Q's glasses.
Every week you're introducing something. All right.
I'll be like, did you see this cool new Batman t-shirt I bought? I think that should be an option now on that's really wild. So outside of gaming, not to, steer the conversation in a new direction, but what are you guys passionate about aside from these kind of like character and game driven stuff? What do you guys geek out about individually?
Movies, TV, comic books, video games, the whole 9 yards. Honestly, there's
nice.
not much I don't geek out about. It's just Star Wars is one of my biggest things. I'd say that I love. Awesome, yeah, you got something. I have Han's blaster on my arm myself. Actually.
I also have a nice Leia cameo that says "I love you."
Awesome.
So everyone here is tattooed with Star Wars.
Star Wars. Yep.
Got it. I'm behind.
Yeah.
We got a great artist. We could totally hook you up. No problem.
Yeah, I'm ready.
It's time, Nora. Maybe.
It's time.
I feel like there's not much nerd things that how can't you love it? It's
sure.
Especially nowadays too. It's just like the most common thing to love, comic book characters and things like that. Like
I wouldn't know anything about any of what you're talking about. I personally live a very boring life. I don't nerd out about anything. Nora, how about you? Is there anything that you're particularly like passionate about?
I think I'm like really late to the game, obviously on Star Wars and other IPs. So I'm like, I love Mandalorian, love it.
Nice.
I love the look of it, everything. I just think they're doing a great job there. I'm excited by all the future content that's coming up with that too. So I think I nerd out about that a little bit. I have a 2-year-old, so a lot of my free time is now spent chasing a 2-year-old, right? Yeah, you understand.
Get it.
So it really takes that free time that you have, but I do get, shows have like really good costume design, where things got really beautifully tailored and subtle in like the later seasons of like, let's say Game of Thrones. I can't help that. I think that's when in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh, we could just make these outfits in Hero Forge. We can make something like this, these beautiful materials. So I think that sticks in my mind. Yeah, for like sort of day-to-day nerdiness.
Yeah, I love that because I think so. We at Project Nerd, we kind of have this motto, our credo, if you will, is that you can nerd out about anything, right? It's not just limited to comic books or movies or your traditional kind of nerd fare. We have people that nerd out about woodworking. We have people that nerd out about food. I'm not pointing at anybody, but we have people that nerd out about gardening. So it's always interesting to me to find out people who kind of deal with what would be considered a more traditional kind of nerd job or role, what they personally nerd out about. You know what I mean? Yeah. I find that super interesting.
I find myself, I know it's not fun to say, but I nerd out about work. I nerd out about this sort of industry and the impact that can be made there, where you're with these amazing people at Hero Forge, this amazing team. So a team of folks that can do incredible stuff, really thoughtful about what we're doing, really excited about sort of this future we can carve out for ourselves. And that does get me a little bit nerdy about that, where I'm like, that's exciting to wake up to.
I love it. Do you guys ever get to go to like events and see your things in action? Like, have you gotten to go to any of these kind of large game shows or series and see people getting excited in person?
Some of our earlier folks at the company did. They, especially when we were going before COVID hit, they were going to those, and the excitement was definitely there. So they were sort of like, when we go to these things, we are feeling the excitement right up front, and I think we had a lot of attention at the tables. I was going to go when we were going to, I think in 2020, as the pandemic was going to come down the pipe, we were just sort of like, okay, we're just not going to do the conventions. But yeah, absolutely.
Have you ever modeled a character face after someone you know? Like,
No.
and not said anything to anyone? You're just like, that's John. That is John's face. That is going to be modeled there.
So we've got to get Booch into Hero Forge. So what you're saying?
Definitely, 100%.
Well,
Are you like? And then also like, are we ever going to see Nicolas Cage added as an option in Hero Forge?
Booch, I think we could say yes.
I mean, I feel like the tools that someone would need to get there are on the way. Sure. And kind of to speak to the what you said earlier about being able to put your own face in it. At the moment, the people can kind of tweak our faces and mess with things here and there. But we're definitely expanding that in the future, the capabilities there. So I'd say Nicolas Cage face is probably some talented user will be able to get their dream Nicolas Cage certainly.
My personal vanity is like going through the roof right now. I'm like, wait a minute, are you telling me that soon I'm going to be able to put my own face on characters? Because I need 37 minifigs that all have my face. I want an army of me that I can play with.
Yeah, no, I totally get that feeling, and I have the same want as well. And what we were talking about earlier about the complexity of the system as it is, it's kind of constantly growing because we're always developing new advancements and new tools for people to kind of dig in and do even more customization, and so we end up having to factor in even more new systems and different complexities. And yeah, they're we're certainly expanding in a lot of the capabilities of the website, and yeah, I think people will be excited to see what's in store for the future when it comes to that. It's the main core of our system is to allow people to customize. So we're just getting even deeper into that, in the upcoming releases and things like that. So yeah, people should stay tuned for what's coming out. Definitely.
That's crazy exciting.
Well, I know my bear with the bowl cut and high heels right now is definitely. It doesn't have my custom face, but I'm pretty excited already. What's coming together there?
Can you imagine a bear with a bowl cut with your face as well? That sounds haunting. I don't know.
I will say though, it's so often that you think about roles like this and you worry like, oh, now that I have to deal with this every day of my life, it's taken away from the excitement. But I'm not picking that up at all from either one of y'all. Y'all still sound very excited, not only about what y'all are doing as a company, but everything around it. And it sounds like it's even pulled y'all further into gameplay and in custom characters and things like that too.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. Yeah. And it's the excitement of being on a team where we get to create, we have a mix of what we decide to create. And a lot of that is user input, very much so, because it's the users that are asking for, hey, I wish you had we just got some maracas today and a pan flute and a few other things. Certain bard-related instruments, they'll let us know that they want these things. We weigh that against what we can sort of get out real soon, what will take a little bit more R&D, and being in that position of the responsibility of that information coming in that's very meaningful to users, and then our knowledge of our sort of research and development ideas that are coming into play, and then just stuff that no one would think to ask for that we also want to do. And you sort of blend that all together and then make really good judgment calls about what's going to come out when. It just naturally keeps you very excited for what's coming up every day, I'd say. At least for me, very much so.
Yeah. I like to imagine, and you don't have to tell me if this isn't the case, but I like to imagine that when I think of your offices, it looks like a medieval like kind of like storefront bazaar where you have like metal smiths that are like pounding anvils and they're like, I'm making a customized sword for this character. And you have like people that have like amazing fabrics and stuff. They're like, "What sort of fabric would you like for your character?"
It's all that. It's a bazaar. There's cobblestone.
Totally 100%. You heard it here exclusively on the Nerdcast. Hero Forge offices are indeed a strange medieval bazaar.
It's the only one in Santa Monica, California. Yeah. It's so perfect that we got
just
that
a weird
property.
but each of those little stalls has like a computer installed, and that's where like when people put their orders in online, it like pops up at the blacksmith, and he's like, "Oh, horseshoe, okay, here we go." I love that. If
there's
that's
a
not the
shield
case,
with a
it should be.
face, Q, so we could put the face
shield?
on the shield while the bear with the bowl cut is holding it. There you go.
Excellent.
I was trying to find the maracas. I got really excited.
I do have to ask:
is
saying, the shield with the face on it, is that supposed to say that the shield is alive, or is that insinuating that it just has
looks like a
face
crest,
on the...
like a crest style
like
shield?
crest.
I could default to the experts here, but I would say that's what it kind of.
Is this
like.
a living shield, or is this a crest on a shield? Nora and Booch, help us.
User's choice, I suppose. You know.
All right.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Honestly, that's the beauty of it. You can whatever your imagination feels like. You know. We have some amazing users, like some really amazing users, and the creations people make. I find our system to be really complex and intricate, and I'm still amazed at some of the creations people make with our system that I just see daily. So yeah.
Do you ever have stuff that just blows your mind with how bizarre it is?
Constantly.
All the time.
Yeah. Like you look at something and you're like, "What is this?"
So
I don't know, like that wasn't ever.
I think where Booch is cutting out there again.
sorry, Booch.
Give it a sorry.
No
Sorry
worries.
about that internet.
I can at least
Go ahead.
So we have a Facebook group called the Creators Guild where folks that are really, really invested in, finding really great miniatures from Hero Forge and making them post there. So we keep eyes on that once in a while to see what's coming up with. And they're just so far and beyond what your imagination could do. And it's so exciting because they're sitting there with Hero Forge. So their focus is really on what can I do with this? And on the internal side, we think about that, of course, but our focus is get them what they need, get them what they want, give all these great features to them. And let's really stack that and make really impressive releases, which are going to be increasing in volume and theming and awesome stuff as we go forward too. So they're on the receiving end there in a way, other than giving us input, but they get to really work over those miniatures, and we'll post some of them once in a while in our company chat of like, here they are again, just blowing away expectations.
What are they? X Rider 227 made Vin Diesel again. I don't know why he keeps making. This is babysitter Vin Diesel, I suppose.
Someone made Jim Carrey from The Mask today, or I at least saw a couple of these because the maracas came out, and so they'll do all these culture references as soon as they come out.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
it's great.
I love those. I also love the we released the ability for characters to have like 6 arms, and once that came out, the crazy spider tanks that people were making somehow. And you're like, how did you do that? It's like we designed the meshes to work correctly a certain way. You know what I mean? Like functionality is the main purpose, but there's like extra functionality that we're not really accounting for sometimes. That it's astounding to see people using things in ways you never expected.
That's
always
hilarious.
Yeah, it's really
Once again, another reason that I should not be let loose on this website.
No, I had to close my tab because I was getting.
You're like, I'm getting in too deep. This is too much.
My bowl cut bear in high heels is holding 2 mugs in one hand and a pie in the other one, and I was like, all right, at this point, I've gotten too deep in. I need to get back on the.
And then you heard Booch say, "Well, now you can have 6 arms," and you're like, "Okay, now I'm adding more arms."
I saw pizza. I saw apples. I could put all kinds. You said some of us like to nerd out about food, and he wasn't lying.
It was so 100% true. That's killer. I mean, what Hero Forge is doing as a whole is such a fun, cool concept. At Project Nerd 2, we're all about people being creative and expressing that creativity. And I think that couldn't be more in line with what Hero Forge is doing. Hero Forge is giving people an opportunity to essentially take whatever is in their brain and physically manifest it in the real world. And that's such a cool, unique opportunity.
Yeah. One of the things I
love
love too, to piggyback on that, is that a lot of our users will just make their characters. They don't necessarily print them, which is fine. You know, this is a creative outlet too, where you can just go on that site and make these characters, save them in your heroes folder, and just have them there. You can update them over time. And there's a lot of passion for that as well. It's not like a requirement that you need to like get this into sort of purchase state. So I think that brings a lot of fun and interest to the site. Of I can go right onto the site and just start creating a character and whatever it is that I want it to be. And I think that freedom ignites a lot of imaginations.
Yeah.
Another item to I was going to say another item to call out with that. Oh, is that Booch go? I'm sorry.
Oh, good.
I was just going to say another item real quick to jump in there too, is when we were talking about the figures being sent over, the option still is there to paint it yourself, because that's a big deal to a lot of these people who do the small figures. They like to paint them themselves, so that's still an option even with these custom characters.
For sure. Yeah.
And a lot of price
huge
points.
range of options for how people want to print these things and deal with them on their table, or even just do digital versions if you're interested in that. If that's how you approach your tabletop experience, then there's that as well. But yeah, I personally love mini painting. Like I said, I was a customer before I was a employee here, a teammate here. So there's plenty of options in that. And then if you really want to, let's say you don't have the background in painting, or you lack the time to really get into that. You pointed out the tiny little nose on the fox. Not everybody wants to or has the ability or time to do that themselves. And that's where
Look at that fox.
Yeah, that's where our color printer really comes in. The gradient on that wing on the angel there for as an example, that's difficult for a lot of people to do. I mean, as a basic.
Oh, I'm not doing it. That's for sure.
Sure, yeah. So, and then we even offer like professionally hand painted minis as well, if you want to get into that as well. But yeah, it's a whole range. Kind of get to everybody and all the different aspects of this hobby, because it's a big hobby with a lot of different ways to approach it. So yeah.
Sure.
I'm not even allowed to paint whole walls, so I definitely need
I definitely can't paint.
I've been kicked out of rooms painting whole walls because I can't do that. So anyway,
so I want to ask, we kind of tangentially mentioned 2020 earlier. I think when we jokingly said it's been 37 years since our last podcast. Now I have to ask, what was 2020 like for Hero Forge? Like, did you see that people I mean, obviously people were in their homes a lot more. A lot of people are doing sort of these projects, and we've talked to wide ranges of folks. We've talked to cosplayers too, who, spent an entire year working on their dream project because they had the time and and then we have other people who were like, I didn't do anything because I couldn't function. Did you guys kind of see any of that? Did any of that translate into what you were seeing coming across on the website?
I think we were in one of the rarer positions of not only were we set up to work from home, because we already had a work from home structure in place for a couple days a week. So we had home computers as well. So we actually pivoted over to home really effortlessly, which was a great thing that the company sort of set up for everyone. But we still noticed that there was a lot of interest in miniatures and miniature creation. And for us, our work really didn't skip a beat. So it sort of just kept rolling, which I think was, at least for me, really anchoring during a very confusing time, to be able to have work continue. We did not feel any concern there necessarily. So I at least just was like, well, I'm going to keep working and work real hard, and this will get me even more focused on my work. I know there are points where I'm sure plenty of us felt like, okay, let's dial back from work a bit, because work is definitely in our home space now. It's hard to disconnect once in a while.
Yeah. Well, I would imagine too that the feeling is probably same for a lot of your customers too. I'm sure that they were comforted by the fact that they can continue to work on these things, and they can run, like you said, Booch, you'd mentioned earlier. I know several people that started online campaigns specifically when that happened, because it was a way to still like kind of connect with their fellow person and still enjoy something that felt communal, as opposed to that isolation that kind of everybody was feeling. Was the digital version of these characters, was that something that existed pre-2020? Like, was that pre-pandemic that you could do either a digital version or a physical version?
Yeah, for sure. What you mentioned people transitioning to the digital version. I actually personally did that with my game that we currently are playing in, and we just transitioned to digital versions of our custom minis. So it was pretty seamless, and they work really well with all their the current digital platforms that exist. But no, yeah, to your question, that did exist before the current situation. Mainly they were sold digitally for people who have their own at-home printers, who are into the 3D printing hobby itself. And so, yeah, that's how you would you purchase a digital version of the character you design through us, and you get the file, and then you'd be able to print on whatever type of printer you have at your own local area. You could print those files. So that's a thing that we kind of always had, but I would say it's definitely something that's expanded since then. And I think the demand probably would make sense that it's increased as well, with that transition. But it is a pretty seamless transition. From personal experience of like you're at a table, and unfortunately, the current situation being as it has been, a lot of people had to make that switch, and I think it was useful, at least for my party and the people that play at my table, to be able to have that as like an option. But yeah, it definitely a lot of 3D printing hobbyists out there that want to print their own minis. I don't think anyone has the availability to do a color print in person yet. That's a tech that I don't think anyone, I'd be surprised if anyone has that in person yet.
Which is pretty awesome.
Yeah. It's something we bring to the table. It's the technology that is still even though I work with the company and I do, a lot of the intricate details of the work, it's still kind of nebulous to me how that's even possible in a lot of ways to pull that off. So it's cool. Yeah, it's a tech that got me excited before I started working here, and is one of the reasons I was one of the backers on our 2.0 Kickstarter. Yeah,
I feel like the timing of it was sort of serendipitous too, in that we were sort of laying the groundwork for the potential of if there was a colored printer that could work. We kind of were testing things out enough to say, is this even possible for something that we could deeply R&D, which would take much more time and effort and focus. And then when it looked like it did, and we launched a Kickstarter for it, and the Kickstarter was successful, it was sort of just perfect. It was just what you'd hope to bring to a product like this. And the 3D color printing is such a new technology, so we're really in that first generation of it. And so at least I'm personally excited to see where that goes 5 years from now, even less.
Sure.
What is that going to look like?
I have a kind of a weird question, and I don't know how this works or if this is even possible, but like, are there opportunities within Hero Forge to do like licensed things? Like for example, I just go back to the Ghostbusters again. Like, is there an opportunity, or is it a thought process that maybe down the road, or have you guys in the past had like a special item available that's like, this is a licensed thing that you can have on your character and introduce into that world?
That's a really interesting question, and I think one that we sort of looked at, over time too. And I think that conversation's not ended. Part of the consideration when that hits something like Hero Forge is that with all the customization, there, you can put one of those IP products into that space, but then it can interact with all these other things and be sort of, there's a lot of that hands-on that can happen to that IP. So you have to be really smart and thoughtful about how you would do that, and how the IP company would want that dealt with too. There would be a lot of back and forth for something as deeply customizable like Hero Forge versus
Sure.
I think if you had like a one-off print and it's nothing you could ever edit, then you're like, okay, well, great. I know this prop or this piece will be right here. It's on this character. We're totally approved on it. That's not going to swap out. So yeah, it's
You kind of
definitely
have less control over that IP stuff that way, like, for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that's like a fundamental part of our mission statement too, is to not kind of compromise the customizable, aspect of it, to make like one thing work one way. You know what I mean? So
Sure.
That's definitely a consideration that that goes into this stuff. But you never know what the future might bring. But
yeah,
sure.
I think Q just really wants those Ghostbuster ones.
I know.
I hear you fully.
And I know you guys didn't ask, but yes, you can use my face. Totally fine.
Screenshot.
I'm okay with it. I will sign whatever needs to be signed. I know there's a high demand. It's fine.
Well, we're getting Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say on the end of that, the face customizer that we're coming up with is really something else. It's on a whole different level. So we know that was one of our Kickstarter stretch goals that we are doing for sure. But we made sure while we were talking about it, we're like, let's make this the most rad thing you can, frankly. Which means a lot in the tech space of what we're building and structuring there. But I think it's going to be very cool, and I'm very excited about it.
Yeah,
Awesome.
we beefed up the team for it to work on it, and we brought on some really amazing artists and people that work in the industry to get that accomplished. And I can't wait for people to. Every time I see what we're working on there, it's like what Nora was saying. It's exciting to come to work, every day when you get to see stuff like that. It's really, it keeps it interesting, and it's just like, I can't wait for the audience response to what it looks like when it comes out, because I think it's going to rival some of the, higher end game customizers that are out there, like, that you're getting like a decently, complex game customizer. So it's cool. There's a lot of capabilities that I can't wait for people to get their hands on. Really cool.
Nice.
Perfect.
Okay,
Well, we're
Nicolas
running
Cage.
tight on time and we'll get that Nicolas Cage, but obviously heroforge.com. I see the Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube logos. You guys are obviously everywhere, so you can check it out. Well, we've learned a lot about Hero Forge, but I want to learn more about Nora and Booch. So I'm going to hit y'all with a couple minutes of lightning round questions. So I'm going to ask real quick questions, and you got to answer quick. So that's the theory there. So, all right. And feel free to just each jump in when I ask it. So first question, you get one fruit to eat for the rest of your life. What are you getting?
Apples.
Sure, apples sounds good. Yeah.
Apples sounds good.
So straightforward.
You can
We
eat,
now
you can
know
eat
why
fruits if
there
you
are
want something
apples in
different.
Hero Forge.
Right?
We needed that.
You've got you're stuck, unfortunately, post 2020. You're stuck in a bunker for forever. You get one movie, but you got to pick it quickly. What movie are you taking with you?
Oh, The Count of Monte Cristo. I don't know.
Princess Bride.
Princess Bride.
I could just watch it over and over.
Both those are good choices. All right. You get to play one video game for the rest of your life. What are you playing?
Wow.
Ooh, I'm not prepared for this one.
Rest of my life.
Yeah. It's supposed to be a lightning round.
Yeah, I got one. I guess one of my favorite modern games. Let's say BioShock Infinite is probably the one I would pick.
All right, I've got mine, and this is where I'm hobbled, is that I need to play Skyrim some more. I've been so busy that I can't play Skyrim. I just want modded Skyrim. I need time to get the mods in place, and I haven't had the time. 2-year-old again. Skyrim, absolutely.
Okay.
Solid choices all around.
Thank you.
Right. I need a book recommendation. What's your book recommendation for me?
I just started reading Valley Forge about
Valley
George
Forge,
Washington. I think it's pretty cool.
Okay.
Can I recommend a comic book?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. I don't know. I would recommend the comic book Superior. I think it's one of the best comic books.
Okay.
Mark Millar. Go for it.
Yeah, Millar World and all that. Hopefully, a lot of that stuff's coming over to Netflix. Q, actually, I don't think I've ever asked you that one. What's the book you're recommending, or comic book?
I actually read a really amazing book this year. It's called The Hike by Drew McGarry, and it's really amazing. So,
okay,
I think that.
Yeah,
it's
is
good.
it fiction?
It is fiction. It actually, I think it would probably play to the Hero Forge audience pretty well. It's about, very quick synopsis is, it's about a guy who goes on a business meeting at a hotel, and he has a couple hours to kill before the meeting, and he decides to go on a short hike, and he ends up in parallel universes trying to get back home. And it's very, very good.
All right.
Awesome.
All right. Well, your recommendation definitely stuck because we were asking for more. I want to know. So, all right. And then last question for Nora and Booch. How many, just off the top of your head, how many miniatures do you each own?
Gosh.
I only have like 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dozens.
Dozens.
Hero Forge ones alone, at least 12. And then,
okay.
I have some others as well. Some handmade custom ones too. But no, really, at least a dozen Hero Forge minis.
Do we get to count the miniatures that we have at the office? Because I think that ups our numbers significantly into the hundreds. So let's not personally there. I'm speaking on behalf of the company for having hundreds of miniatures at the office. But
I feel like at the office there's just miniatures everywhere. Is that the case?
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
just everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they're all inside their weird, bizarre stalls.
Right.
With
Hammer
the,
away at,
with the
yes.
iron worker, they
Absolutely.
also have just like little minifigs. I have to ask, and this is a good lightning question. Not that I'm not saying that this exists, but is there a rivalry? Do you guys hate Lego minifigs? Like, is it like it's like no, ours is the real kind of minifig. Those are not minifigs.
Just hate them. No,
You
no.
hear that,
I don't
Lego?
know, Booch. What do you think?
No, not that I can think of.
No, Lego
There you
is
are.
just
Now
gonna
you're
think
right there.
you
What are you
hate
gonna-
them.
Cool. Sorry,
Like-
sorry about that.
Lego's going to accuse us of editing that out.
That's
and saying it. They're like,
You're gonna be like,
"Mm."
this seems edited to make it seem like there's a rivalry that doesn't exist.
But yeah, no.
Um,
Apologies for the internet there, but yeah, no.
No, you're good.
I'd say it's as far as like the custom nature of things. I think that nothing's really jumping out at me as a specific rival. It's just that there's other things out there. I think we just offer this robust custom library essentially of your imagination's limit essentially. I think is what we really bring to the table. So yeah.
Nice.
Awesome. Well, I think we're tight on time mainly because I got to go finish building my bowl cut bear in high heels. But joking aside, though, obviously, like we said, heroforge.com, as awesome as it is, all the things you're doing, we also talked too about the inclusiveness with some of the character designs, the detail on them. We really are excited. A lot of tabletop game players at Project Nerd, so it was really awesome to get to have this conversation. So we do appreciate both of y'all being on the Nerdcast with us. Is there before we wrap up, anything y'all want to plug? Anything Hero Forge wise, personal, or anything you want to say before we close?
I mean, only that our fans are amazing. We'd love to give them everything that they want. We hear you on all that, and we're just really excited to get that to you so you can make amazing creations. So that's my personal take.
With that said, then as a fan, I really want an army of myself. So
With Nick Cage's.
just throwing it out there.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
That's so awesome. You guys are the best. Hero Forge rocks. I definitely would recommend anybody who isn't familiar, go check it out. If you've been just cosplaying as your characters because you didn't think there was an option like me and my family, well, there is. And not only will it just enhance your experience, but you can keep dressing up as your character as well. Nobody
Why not
says that
both?
there can't be two of you.
Exactly.
And definitely make sure you check out this interview along with every other show on the amazing Project Nerd Network. And we have some great things coming at you next year. So definitely stay tuned. Yes, look at all of these places. You can follow us, the Project Nerd blog. You can follow us at project.nerd on Instagram. One place that if you're watching this, you're already there is the Project Nerd YouTube channel. So definitely make sure that you subscribe, hit that little bell icon thing that they make you do so that you can make sure you stay up to date with all of the amazing videos coming at you all year long from Project Nerd.
Q, what if I'm not a fan of YouTube, or if I want to check out Project Nerd stuff post March 2022? What should I do?
Well, if you're not a fan of computers or YouTube, you're probably not watching this. But if you are, you should definitely navigate over to your Roku device because we are coming to Roku. That's right. Project Nerd TV is going to be invading your television at home, and there's nothing you can do to stop us. I mean, I guess except short of not downloading the app, but you don't want to do that. You don't want to be the odd person out who doesn't have the Project Nerd TV app where you can see
One and
content like
only
this
person.
times a million. There's going to be so much great partner content. There's going to be amazing series. There's going to be series that you're already familiar with that are migrating over. It's going to be a blast. There's something for everybody. Come see us.
There you go. Well, you got your marching orders, everybody. HeroForge.com, ProjectNerd.com, and Project Nerd TV.
Yes.
We'll all wave you out. But that's it for this episode of the Nerdcast. Thanks, everybody.